Welcome to Wing Academy Video, an extension of Wing Academy of Unfoldment. I'm your host, Diane Wing, and my show focuses on how to use spiritual concepts in the real world. We will address issues related to the mind, body, and spirit, discover how to release what holds us back, and ways to come into our power. Learn more at dianewing.com. Today, my special guest is Natalie Glebova. Natalie is a best-selling author, mindset and energy coach, and former Miss Universe. Through her extensive spiritual journey to attain self-love and deeper self-awareness, Natalie started a coaching practice that focuses on energetic aspects of personal development to help her clients become winners in life and love. We'll be discussing her book, Temple of Love, which is inspired by true events and gives real practical tools for overcoming emotional struggles and healing yourself one chakra at a time. Learn more at natalieglebova.com. Welcome, Natalie.
Thank you, Diane. Pleasure to be here.
I am going to show your book on Amazon because I'm sure by the end of this conversation, people are going to want to get it. And
It's available on all the digital stores like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and what have you. But there it is. Yes, that's on Amazon.
okay, everywhere books are sold on both ebook and paperback, folks.
That's it.
So, yeah, uh, having self-love is so important. And
Mm,
especially, like you talk about healing from heartbreak. Anything that would be like a transition from one thing to the next, like in life or changing careers, that can really make you have like it, you could take a hit on your
mm,
self-identity in
mm.
that kind of circumstance. So
Yeah.
tell me about your philosophy around that and how the book can help people manage that.
You're right when you say your self-identity, I guess the ego self can take a hit when you're going through a really dark night of the soul or a difficult moment in your life, as I'm sure all of us have gone through it, be it a heartbreak, a divorce, job loss, or anything else that truly shakes you to your core. And at some point, when something colossal like that happens, it really forces you to look inwards and to find those parts of yourself that you may have neglected. Maybe you have forgotten to integrate some of these parts of yourself, or maybe you've just lost that alignment to your higher self, to your purpose. And that's when the journey inwards begins, right? That's when we can take that pilgrimage back to ourselves to discover who we are, what is the true heart's purpose, what is it that our priorities are, what our values are, and what does it really truly mean to love yourself. And this is what Temple of Love was written about, is about coming to a point in your life where you're kind of like standing on the brink of change or transformation, or you've come to the end of the road and you feel like there's nowhere else to go except inwards.
There you go. Well, I love how you tie it to purpose because a lot of people might do daily tasks and just they're busy, right? But they may not be experiencing meaning, and
Hmm.
they're certainly not tying it back to their true nature.
Yeah, because we tend to get busy, right? We tend to get caught up in the rat race and chasing the things that maybe were important to us when we were not aware of who we truly were or what truly mattered to us. And when we get to that point where there's nowhere to go except inside, that's when the journey, the healing journey starts. And that's where we can really look at ourselves from the perspective of our old wounding, the shadow self, the traumas that we might have experienced, or just the general patterning that we keep getting stuck in the same patterns, right? Repeating the same things, whether it's habits, whether it's same relationships or same types of situations that we keep attracting. And that's when we need to ask ourselves, like, is that happening on autopilot? Somehow my subconscious mind is driving all of these things to happen. And you can discover a lot from yourself, right? When you take those inner journeys. I'm sure you
Oh,
have your
yes.
own ways. We've talked about it briefly, that you have your own way through tarot cards, astrology, and other ways that you take that inner journey.
Yes. Well, and because I had an advantage because my master's degree is in clinical psychology, where during that program, we have to go very deep within and understand, like you said, where are the wounds so that our clients don't experience our stuff and we
Mm.
be more objective, right? So during that program, you're getting torn, you're ripped apart. You're taking
Wow.
every psychological assessment. You're doing all this work, and it really accelerates the way that you're um observing yourself, which is
Yeah.
very difficult. So to have all these people helping you to observe yourself is really beneficial.
Yeah.
Um, but not everybody has that opportunity to go in that intense environment and have the additional purpose of not only self-awareness, but if you're going into a helping profession, a healing profession, you need to be sure that you are healed first.
Hmm. That's right. So what you're talking about is that self-awareness, which is one of the pillars that I call it three pillars of self-love, which I talk about in Temple of Love, of course. And that self-awareness is absolutely essential, right? Until you have
Yes,
self-awareness, you don't even know that there's anything that needs to be changing. How can you change something when you're not aware?
that's
So
right.
it's nice to see that you had the opportunity to go that deep within yourself.
And it's not easy, folks. It's not easy to go that kind of like to be open, to be really opened up and be seen.
Dissected, dissected and examined under the microscope.
Dissected is the perfect word.
Yeah. It's
So,
not. All kinds of stuff tends to come up, and all of these repressed memories and repressed emotions, things that were unconscious or subconscious, are coming up to the surface. And it takes a brave soul to look within and to
yes,
deal with a lot of this stuff.
my coaching clients are the most courageous people I've ever met. They really are. It takes so much courage. And, that makes me think about pageant participants. I mean, that takes so much courage. You're really putting yourself out there and you're seen by millions of people, right? I mean,
Yeah, I would say that my coaching clients are as well. I got to give them credit for that because they are putting themselves into a place where they are judged. And for maybe for that reasons, pageants have been getting a lot of negative attention or maybe judged for the fact that we are putting ourselves in a position where we're being judged physically, right? For our physical attributes. But of course, it's so much more than that. It's so much deeper than that. It's a mental game at the end of the day. And I have to say, all of the contestants and all of my clients that I coach for pageantry are incredibly talented and wise and deep women who have amazing stories, they have empowering messages, they provide so much value towards their communities. And yeah, it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there, but I always say one pageant equals to 3 years of personal development. So in one pageant, you can discover so much about yourself and have that level of self-awareness and also the self-development, which is another pillar of self-love. self-development.
Well, with the pageant folks, I'm sure they all have their own wounds and triggers that are like right at the surface, right at the edge, as
Mm.
you're being judged, as you're going through the process that has to be done, that's required of that kind of competition.
It
And
is.
so how, I mean, do you go in with a certain amount of self-love, or does it develop during the pageant, or a combination? Like, tell me more about that.
Well, it's both. It's definitely both. You need to have a certain level of confidence in order to even think about participating in a in a contest like this. So going into it, I think women already have a certain level of self-love and confidence. However, once you get to the pageant and you're up against, let's say, 40, 50, 60, or even up number of contestants, and you're all together for a week or more, things start to get a little bit crazy, as you can imagine, because this is where the week will get herded off in a sense, because if your confidence or your security level was a mask that you were wearing, it's going to become evident very, very quickly because the mind is going to be very quickly start comparing yourself to other people, having all kinds of thoughts, being psyched out by the competition, just getting nervous and all different kinds of things. So if your level of self-love was not deep enough, if it was based in deep insecurity and deep wounding, and the reason for competing was for validation and for seeking that external validation, then it's going to be evident very, very quickly. And I see it all the time, right? I see women crumble under pressure and crumble because that mask that they wear, it cannot withstand that pressure. And
Yeah,
so as you go through that experience and through that process, you're either going to rise and up level on that level of confidence and self-love, or you're definitely going to fall back and get more wounds, but it's still a learning lesson. It's still an opportunity to learn and see, why was I in this pageant in the first place? Right? And if the answer is anything other than becoming the best version of myself and putting value out into the world, then the lesson wasn't really learned.
right. Well, and these are excellent points because it also happens on a daily basis with regular people, that
Mm,
people that aren't in a competition, but they feel like they are. They're comparing themselves or judging themselves or waiting to be judged by the boss, by family, by
sure.
friends, by, am I enough?
And seeking that external validation to be seen as successful, to be seen as, someone who matters, somebody who has accomplished something. And if you're seeking that validation from the outside, you're always going to fall short and you're never going to be fully happy or feel fully successful.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, you talk about doing this and healing and balancing your energy one chakra at a time.
Mhm.
So, how does somebody start this journey? Like, what would be a quick, like, tip from
Uh-huh.
your book that you can
Well,
share?
I guess there are no quick fixes, as you know.
Right.
And do you know much about chakras
Yes.
from
I'm a,
your
I'm
own?
a Reiki master. So,
Okay.
yes. So, yeah. But
So
the
we're speaking the
audience might
same
not.
language. Yeah. So
Right.
Eastern philosophy definitely takes into account chakras when we talk about healing, right? Chakras are energy centers located around our body and outside of the body. And they take in that vital energy and they connect us to this ethereal realm through these portals. And of course, it's not, nothing has been scientifically proven, but this has been incredibly studied by many holistic practitioners, And I think that even a lot of modern day doctors who are starting to understand the connection between certain chakras and physical ailments. So if we're talking about, for instance, healing the heart, right? If you're having issues with the heart or lungs or somewhere around that area, there might have been repressed emotions of grief, for example, right? And that is already being studied a lot. And there are no quick fixes, but I think of it like this. Think of your body as an instrument. And if that body is not, if the instrument is not tuned to the correct frequencies,
Mm,
that instrument is not going to sound very good. It's going to sound off tune. It's just going to be all over the place. That it's going to cut the ear. So, in the same way, the body can be looked at as an instrument where we tune the chakras to their optimal frequencies by many different techniques and modalities. For example, doing yoga every day, perhaps doing some sound healing, perhaps doing Reiki, right? That's these are the ways that we can tune our body and all of the chakras to the optimal frequency so that we are operating at the best possible vibrating frequency.
and
Would you
you
agree with
can
that?
feel whether or not you're in tune. I mean, you can feel it.
Yeah.
Walking in nature, I feel, is a good way to start this, just to feel,
Mm,
okay, changing your environment. How does my body feel when I'm here versus here?
exactly.
But
Right.
that requires awareness. So that's part of the self-awareness, folks. It's what your body's telling you and
Mm.
where you're feeling it in your body.
Yeah. And that kind of awareness and almost like body intuition comes with time and practice, lots of meditation, lots of mindfulness, practicing these types of things like Tai Chi, yoga, Qigong, lots of different modalities out there. And that's why they exist, because they train people to synchronize the breath to the movements, to be mindful, to be observant, and to quiet down the thoughts long enough so that we can actually hear what the body is telling us. And
Yes.
sometimes what the higher self is telling us as well, right?
Oh, yes. And just know, folks, that when the higher self or the divine that's coming in the crown chakra is telling you something repeatedly and you're ignoring it, that's when the brick falls on your head. So don't wait
Don't
until.
wait for that. Well, it's either that or you're just going to be stuck in the same repeating loops until you learn the lesson. And Lord knows I have been there and I'm just like, okay, I'm done. I've learned the lesson. Thank you very much. I think I'm
Right.
good now.
Yes. Yes. The key is to get into a flow where you feel like you're in a flow.
Mm,
Um,
the state
and
of flow.
so, that's why grounding is important.
Yeah, and that grounding when you walk barefoot outside in nature, touch some trees, or just, being in the forest, like that's very grounding. And that's actually really good for your root chakra, right? As far as I understand it.
Yes, the Japanese call it forest bathing.
Mm,
And I
love
love
that
that
term.
because
I
that
love
it
that
is what
term.
it feels like. It's like the green just wraps around you.
It is, and it's not just some kind of woo concept because they have also scientists have proven that when you're around nature, even touching a tree, you're getting charged by all of these negative ions. So it is scientific as much as it is a spiritual belief.
Yes. And it's part of the self-care pillar of your three pillars of self-love method. I mean, self-awareness is feeling it, right?
Hmm.
Self-care is responding to what you're feeling, and then self-development. What
Yes.
kinds of you know, thing?
Self-development or constant, never-ending improvement, as that I think there's a Japanese saying as well. I can't remember the term, the Japanese term. It'll come to me in a moment, but it's definitely that continuous improvement, kaizen, it's called, right? So
Oh,
you're continuously striving to become the next best version of yourself. Because without that, we stagnate. We stop when we stop growing, we stop being curious, we stop developing ourselves, we stop creating, and creation is life. We need to always tune into that energy of creation, constant improvement, always looking of ways that we can learn more, grow more, evolve, right? Because that's the nature of humans. If we didn't have that, we
Yes.
wouldn't be humans.
I love that. And everybody has their own unique way of expressing themselves. So if you hold that back, that's part of the stuckness,
Mm.
right? That's part of what doesn't allow you to flow. If you can create, like you were just describing, and express your unique way without
Hmm.
fear of judgment,
Yeah.
then go
Well,
ahead.
that's what it is because creation comes from that sacral chakra area. And when you were mentioning before that flow state, it actually sacral chakra is the element of water, so we need to constantly be flowing, moving, creating, and that creation energy, it's the most powerful energy in the universe. It creates life, right? So if we can create life with our bodies, but we can also create with our minds and from our hearts, and we can really put that energy out into the world in the most beautiful ways, especially when it's aligned to your heart's purpose, to your true, they call it dharma, right? In the Vedic philosophies. That's when it's the most powerful use of that energy.
Yes, I love that. And
Mm.
you can also, we talked about internal versus external, but sometimes messages do come externally. They're not judgmental messages, right? But they might be symbols or totems. And you talk
Hmm.
about that in your book.
I absolutely love the idea that the universe is leaving us little breadcrumbs along the way. And if we start to believe in certain signs and symbols, it actually works in our favor to believe in them. And so, what I talk about in the Temple of Love is the idea that if we assign a symbol to something that we believe in, like for example, we assign a symbol towards prosperity or good luck or abundance or something like that, and we can wear that symbol as a pendant or have it on our altar or draw it on our vision board, whatever it may be. Maybe even get a little tattoo of it. Then it's not the actual symbol that brings us those good things like prosperity, good luck, and protection. It's the power of our own minds because we make it so by believing in it, right? So that's how powerful we are, and we should never forget that our belief systems create our reality, and we can use little symbols along the way as synchronicities, right? As angel numbers, for example, that we see repeating number sequences, or a certain animal, or I don't know, anything that you feel like seems out of place, right? But seems kind of like symbolic somehow. Use it, absolutely use it to your advantage. And if you believe in it, it becomes so.
It activates it, doesn't it?
It
It's
does.
like an
And
activator.
we are the activators. Like our minds are actually activating it. Because, I have an altar at home where I put symbols, different deities. I have pyramids that symbolize the temple of love for me, which is that symbol of complete self-love. And then the deities to me represent my connection to the divine and the reflection. They are reflecting back to me my own divinity, right? So these are then they become symbols for me to remember who I am, remember my own power, and always have that feeling of like I'm always being guided, I'm always being protected. Do you have some of those symbols as well?
Oh, yes. Um, and they're from all different cultures and traditions. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be just one specific, like, everything has to align with one tradition because
Yeah.
there's gems of wisdom in all traditions.
All, and they all pretty much point to the same truth anyway. So it's just
Yes.
nice to have. I'm like you. I kind of collect on my travels. I collect different statues and symbols of deities, like for example, Saraswati goddess or a Ganesh statue. Then I have a little Zohar. It's from Kabbalah, a little book. An icon from that my grandmother gave me. She's from Orthodox, Christian Orthodox religion, but it's a little icon that reminds me as well of my roots. So it's nice. It's nice to have from different parts of the world.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I have a Kuan Yin in my garden, which is a symbol of compassion and blessings. And I
Is
have
that like a green Tara, or is that a different deity?
Kuan Yin
Hmm.
is
Is that
Chinese.
from
She's
Tibetan Buddhism?
no, that's Chinese. Kuan Yin is Chinese, but I have a Tibetan Buddha also in my garden
Mm. Oh, that's beautiful.
separately. And then inside I have smaller I have like Shiva and I
Hmm.
have the Blessed Mother and I
Yeah,
have another Buddha, so I think see what you're attracted to as
exactly.
and then dive a little deeper into what exactly is this? What is the energy that it's expressing? And
Hmm.
how is it connecting to me and why am I drawn to it? Those are some good questions to ask when you're selecting different things. And I know that people collect fairies and stuff like that, but that's also a valid
Absolutely.
symbol.
It is. It can be. Anything can be. I find sometimes a funny looking rock and I'll put it on my altar because I love the way that it looks or the way that it
Yes.
feels. I have crystals as well, different types of crystals, because they also have their own specific energy and their frequency.
Yes.
Do you work with crystals?
Yes. I have them all over my office. And,
Yeah,
for different reasons. I think depending on them is not a good idea, but I think adjusting the energy with them is more along the lines of what I prefer
right, right.
to
Using
do.
them as tools, right? They're tools in helping us tune our instruments.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, "Ooh, I forgot my special rock today. Now I can't do what I was going to do." Don't give it so much power because the power's in ourselves.
Exactly. That's the thing. When certain objects like crystals, I think they do have certain frequencies for sure.
Yes,
And even let's say a statue of a Ganesh or Buddha could have been carved with special intentions by some monks or something like that. But as I said, it truly what activates their power is our own belief. So when we believe that it brings us protection and good luck and all the things that we want, then that's all that matters. So relying on
yes,
ourselves.
yes. You can even create your own symbol and
Mm-hmm.
infuse it with energy, with whatever the energy is that your intention wants it to have.
100%. Yeah. Even using your favorite color, for example. I like to use colors in my visualizations. So if I'm creating like a bubble of protection around me, or I want to infuse myself with a particular energy, let's say of abundance, I will think of a certain color that represents that to me. And when I assign that meaning to that color, then it happens that when I visualize it and our minds, they actually work on a subconscious level. They communicate to us through symbols and through these kinds of symbolic images. So whether it's a color, whether it's a number, whether it's an animal, you can create anything you want and assign that meaning to that.
Yes. Well, color has frequency. We know this. And so yes, and all the chakras have colors associated with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so yes, you can take a color and apply it to so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you're right, when it's a very personal association, I think that enhances its power to you. It
Right.
might not for somebody else,
Right.
but we're only talking about our own developing our own power for the purposes of our own growth and
Hmm.
centeredness.
Hmm. And I think once you learn how to assign these meanings and work with the colors and the symbols, you almost create like your own language between yourself and your higher self, or you and the universe.
That's true. I love
Yeah.
that. Yes.
I just kind of, it occurred to me that as you keep doing that, you can even assign meaning to the things that you see outside, right? From the clouds to, I don't know, certain dragonfly flying by, and then you can
Yeah.
have that communication with the universe. You can develop it by yourself, and it will only be meaningful to you. And that's okay, because that's the only thing that matters.
Yes. Exactly right. Um, Before we go, we have a few minutes left. You talk about healing generational trauma and reprogramming, and I think this is such an important concept because you might take on wounds like from your family,
Hmm.
wounds that have happened that you didn't even generate. Like I think our choices, of course, are going to direct our lives and help us understand who we are, but the generational traumas are also valid. Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, I didn't really know much about it until I started talking to my parents about their experiences living in the Soviet Union and how they have been really scared to speak out there what they thought. They were terrified of speaking out their minds, telling the truth. My dad has, he remembers lots of times where there have been some injustices that he witnessed that the government did, and that nobody was really allowed to talk about these things. So I think that somehow this generational trauma has passed on to me because as I talk about it in Temple of Love, I had to work a lot on my throat chakra as well because I was not comfortable speaking my truth. And I think that
Mm.
somehow got passed down from the generational trauma of my parents and before them, even, right? So I struggled a lot with getting tonsillitis and a lot of
Oh,
issues related to the throat since I was very young. And I didn't really understand why that was happening. But as I spoke to my parents and I discovered a lot of these situations that they have been in, it actually cleared up a lot of my questions. And I understood that we have not been able to, we did not feel safe to speak out the truth. And so, of course, then that blocked the throat chakra. And it's now up to me, right? As somebody who's aware to be able to speak the truth and always say what I feel authentically. And of course, I'm lucky because I live in a free country, in a place where I can talk about my opinions, right? There's no threat anymore, no threat of imprisonment or death or anything like that. So I'm obviously very lucky. But in many, many other ways, we can carry on generational trauma without realizing it. But the moment we become aware, that becomes our duty to then stop that generational trauma from carrying on because we have the opportunity to heal it if we're aware and if we feel safe to do so. And for many of us, it is safe to do so because we do live, many of us who are able to speak like this on podcasts and listen to these podcasts, we're able to overcome a lot of these traumas and heal ourselves one chakra at
yes.
a time.
One chakra at a time.
Mm.
I think so many people can benefit from this book. If you're looking to enhance your self-love, if you're looking to heal, because everybody's got a wound. I don't care who you are. Everybody's got a wound of some sort. And we just, a lot of times we don't even know what it is. We just know that we're hurting.
Yes. That's the first sign to know that there's wounding, that there's trauma. Either
Yeah.
that, or you will know because you keep repeating the same things over and over again. The same situations, the same people, the same types of relationships keep coming into your life. And as soon as you become aware of that, you can always put an end to it the moment you look into it and say, I no longer want to continue living unconsciously. One of my favorite quotes from Carl Jung is actually when he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it'll keep running your life and you keep calling it fate.
Yes. Yes. I'm a
So,
fan of Carl Jung also.
me
Yes.
too. Likewise.
It's, yeah, it's true. But again, we need to have courage in order to really look deep and be honest about what that wound is.
Mm.
That's hard. It's hard, guys. It's not, this is not easy stuff,
It's not
but
easy
it's
stuff. Yeah.
important.
Sometimes it forces us to face our shadows and things that we really don't like about ourselves, and feelings of shame, feelings of guilt, feelings of fear. There's all kinds of emotions that could come up and surface up as a result of your excavation. But if you just sit with it, if you just allow the feelings to pass through you, if you don't deny them, but you embrace them as part of who you are, that's what it's called integrating the shadow. And sometimes it's a long process. I think I'm kind of going through that right now. Really sitting with myself and saying, okay, there's certain things about me that I don't like. And there's certain things that I've done that could be part of that trauma, but I need to accept it and I need to forgive myself and I need to love all parts of myself. Because if you don't love all parts of yourself, you're denying a big part of yourself. And that's not true self-love.
That's true. And it is a lifetime pursuit. It's this, we develop always if we're lucky. If, if that's the goal, I mean, it's a wonderful thing because different phases of life present different challenges.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, we look back or we look forward and we look now and say, okay, what do I need to change from before in the now so that I can create my ideal future?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I be more confident and love myself despite any challenges from before or the challenges that are facing you today? And so
Yeah.
I think Temple of Love is a great opportunity to really look at this stuff in a gentle, effective way that's honest,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And based on some truths, right?
Sometimes uncomfortable truths, but yes.
Um, so, check out the book, guys, and see how you feel. And this is for both men and women, anybody who feels chill or anything in between, everything, that challenges you, it affects all people
Hmm.
of whatever type. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It's
Yeah.
it's we're all facing the same challenges.
We're all human beings at the end of the day.
Yes. Thank you
It's a
so
journey.
much for being here. And also check out Natalie's website, natalieglebova.com. And it's been such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Diane. I loved our conversation and lots of love.